Tony Katz.
It's Kendall and Casey.
The Amber and Nigel show.
All right, when does your show start? Do we know? I feel like I've been promoting this for 9 years now.
This is the Tony Kinnett Cast on 93 WIBC.
Well, I've been saying it for years. The very last group that the Democrats had to screw over, other than suburban white women in the Rust Belt and the Sun Belt on the East Coast, the last group they had, other than that particular group of ladies, was 90s labor Democrats. The very last group they had to lose. Now, the 90s labor Democrats used to be the kingpin voting bloc of the Democratic Party. This was for getting a fair shake for the worker. This was for those union Democrats. This is for the individuals who served in the steel foundries, who served on merchant marine ships in the Great Lakes. These are the guys who do the farming. These are the guys who do the bulk of the industrial manufacturing production work in this country. And that was the last stone that the Democrats had to throw as far as a sizable demographic voting bloc other than the suburban women vote. And I've said for years that they were losing their grip on that as the Republican Party, really not through any particularly clever voting or campaigning strategy, started to appeal to the working voter who was getting less and less and less as their cities of manufacturing, like Detroit for instance, became hollow shells of their former excellence. And the leadership of the 90s labor Democrat movement left from being Bill Clinton at its peak in the 90s, hence why they're called the 90s labor Democrats, to individuals like Robert F. Kennedy Jr., Tulsi Gabbard, Senator Joe Manchin, and depending on whether you're high or not, John Fetterman in Pennsylvania. Those were like the last people, because the union leadership sucks. At the UAW, even at the Teamsters, talking about how important it is to have a Palestinian speaker at the DNC, as the UAW, the United Auto Workers Twitter account posted earlier last week. A lot of concerns from 90s labor Democrats. And so I said, we're getting ready to see the shoe drop, because although a lot of voters in 2016 who were in the 90s labor Democrat voting bloc had thrown, I'd say, a good hefty chunk of their weight behind Donald Trump and had been, again, on the lines, even though they may have been picketing in accordance with the UAW outside in places like Clinton Township north of Detroit, they may not have been Republicans, as they told me very vehemently when we went up to Detroit to see what was going on during the strikes. But they said when Trump was in office, he may have been an a-hole, but I had food on the table and I had money in my pocket. And I said, with that base shifting so firmly over, who isn't interested in things like abortion and LGBTQ+2IA and Hamas and Palestine and keeping the borders open? Like, this particular demographic isn't interested in that. This particular demographic isn't just defined by white men or black men or any kind of a color. It's a cultural core group. Men who get up in the morning, who have been on those lines for 20, 30, 40 years. The kind who, when I worked at Draper and Spiceland over the summers paying for my college, would tell me stories from the bygone days before you were even a sparkle on your dad's eye. Those individuals, the 90s labor Democrats, are no longer Democrats. It's over. They've lost them, and here's how you know. Because in the span of 3 days, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who should have been given a fair shake to participate in the Democrat national primary, and Tulsi Gabbard, one of the most popular Democrats under the labor movement, back when she was a representative from Hawaii, have now openly endorsed Trump. So we're going to go backwards here, because you've already showed the clip of Kennedy actually endorsing Trump on Friday. First of all, we're going to talk about one of the foreign policy cores. Donald Trump is known for not getting the country into any wars during his administration. Here is Gabbard hitting Harris over the head with Trump's legacy of foreign policy. Check it out.
To the brink of nuclear war than we ever have been before. This is one of the main reasons why I'm committed to doing all that I can to send President Trump back to the White House, where he can once again serve us as our commander-in-chief.
That is a very, very big deal. And then, again, working backwards, one of the greatest moments on camera, which, again, credit to the Trump campaign. They've had some phenomenal moments on camera, in photo, on video. One of these is when There Goes My Hero was played to the tune of Robert F. Kennedy Jr. coming out. And honest to goodness, this is just one of the craziest moments in political history is this moment. If you're watching the live stream on X or YouTube, You head over there. It's the Daily Signals YouTuber X channel. You have to check this out if you haven't seen it. I mean, it's just incredible. If we get copyright struck for using the music, I don't care. This is incredible stuff.
I don't think too many of you people have heard of him. He's very low-key. He's a very low-key person, but he's highly respected.
Trump's
he is a great person. I've known him for so long. For the past 16 months, Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
One of the most incredible moments in a political campaign. That's powerful. Massive stadium full of people losing their ever-loving minds, fireworks. 3 doors down, by the way, the ones who sang "There Goes My Hero" threw a little bit of a fit later, tried to claim that the Trump campaign didn't have the rights to use the song, and then the Trump campaign produced a document that said, we have the rights, and that went away very quickly. So this is extremely bad news for the Harris-Walz campaign. And here's why. Because the media is right now trying to say that, it's not really a big deal. I mean, Gabbard and Kennedy, no one really knows who they are. That is not true. And the reason that it is not true, that it is no big deal, it's a very big deal in this case for the Trump-Vance campaign, is because according to an over 7,800 registered voter survey from August 23rd to the 25th from Morning Consult, Harris is up 48 points to Trump's 44 points. Now, you may say, well, how does that break down? And, why is that not good news for the Harris campaign? Because Harris has not changed in her lead from Trump since about August 11th. On August 11th, Harris was +3. On August 18th, Harris was +4. She hasn't moved. Now, what big event happened last week that should have been giving her a bump in the polls? Oh, that's right. The Democratic National Convention. Nullified, neuter. It's gone. It's over. Now, that is just the best national poll currently for her. According to Echelon Insights, since Kennedy left the race, now it's Harris 48, Trump 48. Stein, West, and Oliver polling just under a percentage point. So it's tied in the national polls. In the swing state, it's still brutal. Trump is still leading in the swing states by and large. Arizona, Nevada, Georgia, Pennsylvania. I don't think he's going to pull Michigan, although he definitely could, with Kennedy dropping out. As has been said by far more pundits than I care to shake a stick at, all of the Kennedy voters that were voting because they didn't like the Democrat that was Joe Biden, they've already gone back to vote for Harris now. Whereas basically now the two remaining camps for Kennedy is I hate everyone, who's probably going to go with whoever Kennedy endorses, and people who liked Trump but liked Kennedy more, who are now going to vote for Trump, most likely. That's enough to carry some serious weight in these swing states. So this leaves Kamala Harris' campaign stuck in the mud. You don't move in the polls with the Democratic National Convention behind you? Now, this is primarily because of two reasons. I'm going to break them down real quick. First of all, because everyone is associating her with the current administration. She's the sitting vice president, no matter how hard the media are so desperately trying to separate the two. The Associated Press had an article out today they have been royally roasted on, claiming that, Kamala Harris is the sitting vice president. She's the candidate of change. How Harris is having it both ways. I'm sorry. First of all, no one's buying it. Number two, this proves RFK Jr.'s point, Gabbard's point, Trump's point, and a lot of other people's points that the media are carrying every bit of water back and forth to the well for Harris. Now, the Trump campaign has pointed out very clearly she can't escape from this in what has to be a very brilliantly cut ad. And if this is the energy the Trump campaign is bringing to the election, it is very, very bad for the Harris-Walz campaign.
Everyday prices are too high. Food, rent, gas, back to school clothes. That is called Bidenomics. A loaf of bread costs 50% more today. Ground beef is up almost 50%. There's not much left at the end of the month. Bidenomics is working. The price of housing has gone up. It feels so hard to just be able to get ahead. And we are very proud of Bidenomics.
Now, that's a very serious problem if people continue to associate economic impact with Harris doing basically nothing different or getting worse. Now, the media is just desperately trying to spin this around. Politico senior columnist Jonathan Martin basically is saying that Republicans are just simply just grabbing whatever they can because they're struggling. Sorry, that's not the case. You've got Kate Sullivan, who is now trying to assist the Harris campaign in kind of sounding the alarm. Oh, Trump's going to maybe back out of the debate. That is not the case either. The Harris campaign is now pressing ABC to change the rules of the debate because she wants a cheat sheet because Kamala can't go off script. She wants to be sitting down because Trump is a bigger person than she is, which is really petty and sad for the record. And number 3, Harris wants the mics to be hot the entire time so that Harris can theoretically say, "I'm listening," if Donald Trump, endeavors to speak a sentence or goes wrong in the way that, Trump does. So it's just hilarious that that's how bad things are. They're already going back to the original debate strategy, which blamed Donald Trump for your complaints about the debate, which didn't work. Now, that doesn't hold a candle to Tim Walz. We're going to get right into that over the next 2 segments, and starting with someone who actually, lived under his administration in Minnesota. Crazy concept. Stick around. Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal, nationally syndicated, first on 93 WIBC.
93 WIBC.
Israel and Hezbollah traded a major barrage of rockets.
Preemptive strikes.
Another news update is minutes away.
Former President Trump is going to be in Michigan today. Vice President Harris kicks off a bus tour through southern Georgia.
On the level, on the go.
Dangerously warm temperatures.
Index values into the hundreds.
And excessive heat watches in effect.
As events happen.
Shooting that happened this morning.
We'll happen to be there.
Around 3 o'clock in the morning.
93 WIBC Mobile News.
Did you know you can now use your own body's healing properties to revitalize your achy joints and get you real lasting pain relief? Tony Katz here. We're talking about QC Kinetics, advanced regenerative medicine. If you're tired of arthritic pain in your knees, your hips, your back, your shoulder, this is something you need to check out. Everybody's talking about regenerative medicine, and the local medical professionals at QC Kinetics are experts in these amazing treatments. You can enhance your joints, improve mobility, and get back to doing the stuff you love without pain and without drugs or surgery or downtime. Under the leadership of medical director Dr. Mitchell Scheinkup, QC Kinetics is the nation's leader in this exciting breakthrough using cellular therapies. The consultation is totally free, so call now. Take action to get lasting joint pain relief with help from QC Kinetics. QC Kinetics in Eagle Creek, Greenwood, and Carmel. Call 317-559-PAIN. 317-559-PAIN. QC Kinetics, Eagle Creek, Greenwood, and Carmel. 317-559-PAIN.
It's common knowledge that after age 30, our metabolism changes. We have less energy and gain weight easier. There's a way to feel better, not in years or months, but sometimes in just days.
I'm Chuck Norris. I tried everything. Working with a team of health experts, we came up with Morning Kick. Morning Kick is a revolutionary new formula that combines all my favorite supplements into one daily drink.
Morning Kick has probiotics to help you lose weight, prebiotics for digestion, superfoods for muscles and joints, and powerful anti-aging supplements. It'll help you feel youthful, energized, and helps manage stress.
I look and feel better than I have in years.
Go to roundhouseprovisions.com, use code HEALTH, or text HEALTH to 511-511 and claim 40% off. Roundhouseprovisions.com, code HEALTH.
Every purchase comes with our 90-day money-back guarantee. You could be feeling these changes within just a couple of days.
Text HEALTH to 511-511.
These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Tax fees may apply.
Life's full of unexpected joys, like problems with water. That's why there's Michaelis, a crew of 24/7 experts who are rescue ready, day or night, one phone call, for a gazillion disasters. Over 3 decades of restoring your home or business to better than new condition. Water, storms, fire, and wet basements. Life happens. Michaelis happens to help you through it. Call 844-FIX-INDY. Make it Michaelis.
Folks ask, Salty Pete, what's the best part of being a pirate? Hello? It's all the buried treasure. I've been following this here treasure map all day. Time to dig. Oh, I once knew a lesson, no trolley with... Arr!
You just hit a power line.
Contact Indiana 811 at least 2 working days before picking up a shovel. It's the only way to dig. Learn more at 811.safedigindiana.com.
Sponsored by the Indiana Utility Regulatory Commission and aired by this station.
Discover cancer care that empowers you at Community Health Network MD Anderson Cancer Center, with leading-edge treatment options right in your backyard.
I feel blessed and lucky. If I knew someone that was going through what I was going through, I would definitely encourage them to participate in a clinical trial. For me, it was life-changing.
Learn more at ecommunity.com/cancer.
Febreze. As a rideshare driver, I love keeping my car smelling fresh and clean. So when I'm driving, I only trust new Febreze car vent clips, now with 3 times greater scent control, because it's that little touch that sets me apart. I can turn the intensity down for subtle freshness, or I can turn it up for when I want lots of scent. So whether it's set to low, medium, or high, with new Febreze car, I know my car's going to smell amazing, which keeps my driver rating right where it belongs. Picking up Oscar! La, 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 la.
My name is Jamie Bowles, and I was diagnosed with non-small cell lung cancer in December of 2018. Nobody would even know looking at me that I have stage 4 lung cancer, and I'm grateful for biomarker testing for that. When I was sitting down with my oncologist, there was already state-of-the-art medication available that I was going to be put on right then and there. Ask your doctor how comprehensive biomarker testing before treatment may help you decide on the best treatment. Visit noonemissed.org to learn more.
A public service message from Longevity Foundation.
This hour on WIBC, powered by Pierce Jewelers, Carmel's Diamond Engagement Ring Store.
You're listening to the Tony Kinnett Cast on 93 WIBC.
Hey, welcome back to the Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal, nationally syndicated first on 93 WIBC. Sometimes I find myself flipping through really good op-eds because in a world of just trashy letters to the editor that are on every single website, sometimes you find a gem and it takes you back. And so we reached out and we got her, the author of a recent Fox News editorial called I Watched as Governor Tim Walz Let My Home State of Minnesota Burn. We have on Savannah Deretich, and she's a government relations over at Students for Life, if I got that right.
Yes, government affairs.
Government affairs. Awesome. So let's dig into this op-ed. It's something kind of unusual today when you look at national group individuals like myself, who we work for, kind of a group that focuses on national issues, that focuses on like national patterns, to write the op-ed about how you're concerned for the stuff coming out of your state or going into your state. Tell us a little bit about what went into driving you to write this scathing editorial.
Absolutely. What really drove me to write this editorial was obviously the announcement of Governor Walz being the VP pick for Kamala Harris. And immediately I knew that this was going to be the most pro-abortion ticket America has ever seen in any election. And it really drove me to really expose how extreme Governor Walz is on abortion, as well as other policies that I personally had to experience as a Minnesota resident during his while he was governor, especially during 2020 when things were absolutely terrible in Minnesota with the George Floyd riots, with COVID, and in the coming years, the most pro-abortion legislation that has ever seen pass the United States. So a lot of those things just kind of built up, and this was a way that I could show the world how extreme actually Governor Walz is and why he's dangerous for America.
And this is one of the things that really gets to me because you're on the western edge of the Midwest. I would say that I'm in the middle to the eastern edge of the Midwest, if we must include Ohio in our Midwestern camp. And it'll be a very cold day in hell before I include the Dakotas. They're Great Plains states and nothing. But for the Midwest, there's a lot of people talking for us right now that we should somehow be honored, that we should be flattered that they would pick fun sitcom dad, Tim Walz out here. I mean, he wore a camo hat once. I mean, isn't that good enough for you? And no one seems to ask questions about his leadership in Minnesota. And Minnesota is such a hotbed purple state that's drifting bluer by the moment. And this crazy environment around the Twin Cities. Obviously, we've talked a lot about the George Floyd riots. Go into a little bit of detail on why you labeled the abortion legislation, though, as so extreme beyond that it's abortion.
Absolutely. In 2022, he passed what was called the PRO Act. And this act allows basically infanticide. It allows abortion all the way through the moment of birth if the woman decides that she wants to end the life of her own child. And even though it doesn't say explicitly, you can kill the child after it's born, but it has no protections whatsoever in the legislation. I personally know pro-life Republican legislators in the Minnesota Senate and House who tried to add amendments to even just give medical care to these children if they survived an abortion at like through the moment of birth. And there's no protections. They were all vetoed by Democrats and therefore signed into law by the governor. And he said repeatedly how proud he was to be able to sign one of the most pro-abortion pieces of legislation in the United States.
Stop. This is something that I think that we need to dig into right now, because I've heard this conversation 500,000 times, and always even on the right, the very terms that you've used. Let's go into detail about what this means. What does it actually mean for Republicans who just begged for there to be conditions that if a baby was born during an abortion, for them to be cared for? Allow me to explain. Let us say that the mother chose to take chemical abortion. So she chose to take a pill, she chose to take some kind of injection, and it forced her body to go into labor to expel the baby from her womb prematurely. The baby, if the poison didn't take, if the poison didn't fry its nervous system, if the poison didn't stop its heart, if the poison didn't nuke its liver, if the poison didn't basically liquefy the parts of its bones which were making red blood cells, the baby can survive. And by the way, you and I have spoken to people, at least if you're like a lot of other people at Students for Life, who have survived these procedures, who have grown up to be fine. They may even have a lasting scar or deformity from the forceps during the forced birth procedure. And we don't talk about how that under that bill, there are no protections if the mother gives birth to the baby right there in the, God forbid, the Planned Parenthood office. They don't have to take care of the baby. And according to investigations that we found from everyone like Mary Margaret Olahan over at the Daily Signal in Washington, D.C., all the way on the other side of the coasts, that Planned Parenthood kind of just throws out the body parts of the fetuses whenever they feel so privy. So these are very graphic, disturbing, horrible things that Walz and the Minnesota Democrats knowingly kept out of the bill, because adding an amendment would be like, what, a couple sentences?
Yeah. It was simple amendments just to say, provide basic medical care for a child outside the womb, which most people would agree that is a human being. But yet, no, they did not want to even add that to any of the legislation.
Now, let me ask you, Savannah Derechich over from Students for Life, government affairs, and resident of Minnesota, or former resident of Minnesota, a fellow Midwesterner. We're being asked to champion the wondrous Tim Walz. Amazing, smart, caring. He's just that lovable sitcom dad that we've always wanted, or so I've been told. Have you ever heard him use the kind of language that I just used to describe a baby born during an abortion?
No. He
No, but he's such an honest, good guy, Savannah. Certainly. Oh, come now. Certainly he's not just using vague terms to cover up an atrocity. Progressives would never do that.
Oh, yeah, for sure. It's only like we're voting for personality and not policy here. That's what a lot of people are doing these days, and it just scares me.
And you're saying that it scares you. Now, a lot of people would say, oh, come on, Savannah, get over yourself. It wasn't that bad, unless you owned a business in Minneapolis and like that fireman who owned the restaurant, which was burnt and wrecked and destroyed, and the glass all thrown in, and then Molotovs thrown in through his window. Had nothing to do anybody, or the minority-owned businesses as well. Some who even supported BLM and supported the police reform, and their businesses were burnt down. Well, I mean, why would you be scared of that happening to you? Why would you be scared of policies? Oh, that's right. Savannah, maybe you can tell me here. Have you known of any personality traits from Tim Walz that made your life easier in Minnesota?
Absolutely nothing. Nope. He
Really?
can be the most cheerful guy on television, but yet his policies show otherwise. Actions speak way louder than words, and they definitely don't align with Governor Walz's charismatic appearance on television.
Now, one of those charismatic appearances, of course, was that he said he took, quote, responsibility to ensure, end quote, that there wouldn't be chaos in Minneapolis and St. Paul. Did those confident, reassuring words actually protect any of the citizens in Minneapolis or St. Paul?
You'd be so surprised, but nope, not one bit.
No. I'm truly shocked. Certainly the Democrat mayors of the state would at least be on his side. The mayor of Minneapolis, what party was he during that time?
Again, you'd be surprised, the Democratic Party.
The Democrat mayor. So the Democrat mayor totally supported Tim Walz in his response to the 2020 George Floyd riot, correct?
Yep.
until he didn't, and he was complaining that Walz was taking forever on the National Guard deployment and among other things. You know, I'm starting to believe that maybe all of the soft-handed good words coming out of the governor's office don't amount to anything at all. I know that's very shocking for you as a Minnesota resident, but would you say that's maybe an accurate portrayal of your former governor?
Absolutely. Yeah, very much so. He says a lot of things, and he even dared to say, and I say this in my op-ed, that we should put people over property, but yet people were dying, businesses were being burned down. He was saying that to calm people down about the uproar and all of the destruction. But he dared to say that and then have curfews for people during COVID and put neighbor against neighbor during all of this. And it was just, honestly, a time Minnesota has never seen ever before in its history. And he played it off.
Neighbor against neighbor. Now, this is the other thing that Midwesterners are known for. We're supposed to be very neighborly. Here we have Hoosier hospitality. Up in Minnesota, you guys have, I don't know, duck, duck, gray duck, you poor, sad things. And, but we're known for our neighborliness, our hospitality, our friendliness. And for the leader of that state to pit neighbor against neighbor, I mean, I'm just saying, policy-wise, that's a pretty troubling record. At least any closing thoughts, anything you would leave out there as a voter, as a resident of Minnesota who survived the Walz regime?
Absolutely. To anyone that thinks that Governor Walz is this nice, charismatic dad that really cares about every individual and has dealt with hard things in his life, so he's just like us, all of that is just to cover up what he's actually done. Even liberal news outlets were exposing, when he was announced to be the VP pick for Kamala Harris, that how he let Minneapolis burn. Trump had to basically threaten, I'm going to send National Guard to Minnesota unless you do something about it. And people were dying on both sides because of the riots and the violence. And because of that, Governor Walz allowed the violence to carry all across other cities, states, and capitals, that because he condoned it in Minnesota. So not only did it hurt Minnesotans, but hurt the whole nation. And people really need to realize what actually Governor Walz is responsible for. He is responsible for the whole culture change in the United States when it came to crime, violence going up. Now we need to have security at every pro-life event we go to because of the violence that was condoned in 2020, carried through to other political action, activism events, through other policies as well. So I think people really need to dig in and actually realize we're not voting on personality, we're voting on policy. And just because someone may look good on TV does not mean they have good policies where they actually are going to affect us in positive ways.
Very well said. Savannah Deretich, she is with Government Affairs over at Students for Life. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll be back in just a second. Don't go anywhere. This is the Tony Kinnett Cast on the Daily Signal, nationally syndicated, first on 93 WIBC.
Small business owners, we know tackling your to-do list can sometimes feel like going 12 rounds against a heavyweight champ. Except that heavyweight's gloves are made of something hard, like diamonds. So when a new to-do pops up, you're like, I can't. I'm boxing my diamond boxing glove-wearing heavyweight champ of a to-do list. At Progressive, we don't want to make your day any harder. That's why we make it easy with over 30 customizable coverage options, so you can finally land a knockout blow. See if you can save on business insurance in as little as 7 minutes at ProgressiveCommercial.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company. Coverage provided and serviced by affiliated and third-party insurers.
Hey, this is Spencer Thompson at Thompson Furniture and Mattress in Columbus. Now through Monday, Smith Brothers of Burn Furniture is on sale during the factory authorized sale. 1,000 fabrics, 100 leathers, lifetime warranty, completely custom, made in Indiana. It's the best, and it's the lowest price in 2024. Lazy Boy recliners start at $499, and Tempur-Pedic and Stearns & Foster mattresses are up to $900 off. Sale ends Monday only at Thompson Furniture and Mattress in Columbus.
Remember the big bad wolf? Michaelis does. Because around here, all that huffing and puffing and blowing houses down stuff comes in the form of rain, wind, and hail. And no matter what your structure is made of, Michaelis is made of first responders and craftsmen who can restore it to better than new condition. Water, storms, fire, and wet basements. Life happens. Michaelis happens to help you through it. Call 844-FIX-INDY. Make it Michaelis.
Don't stress about plumbing repairs. Call LD Smith for honest advice and a free second opinion on any estimate.
LD Smith Plumbing!
A dirty, stinking honest.
Reach your fitness goals in 2024 with the 20-minute once-a-week program at Exercise Inc. 5 locations now in Fishers. Visit exerciseinc.com.
I'm a veteran. We hit a mine in Vietnam. When I came home, I didn't know where to turn.
As America's veterans face challenges, DAV is there.
My victory's been never giving up hope. My wife is always there to remind me we have a life to live.
DAV provides a lifetime of support, helping veterans of every generation get the benefits they've earned.
I am a veteran, but after I got out, I spent 2 years alone and homeless.
Every year, DAV helps more than 1 million veterans so they can reach victories great and small.
My victory was finding the support to get back on my feet. Now I'm getting things right with my family.
I finally admitted, with my PTSD, I wasn't doing well.
But there's more to be done and more victories to be won.
Now I wish I'd found DAV sooner. I am a veteran. My victory is just enjoying each day.
Help support more victories for veterans. Go to DAV.org.
It's just alcohol. Everybody drinks. You may have already heard this statement from your teen. I'm Tammy Silverman with Indiana Youth Institute. Alcohol is the substance most commonly abused by teens. Survey data shows that 2 in 10 Indiana high school students reported drinking in the past month, and more than half of Hoosier teens say it would be easy to get alcohol. How do you talk with your teen about alcohol use, especially if they see peers or adults drinking? First, understand that your child may point out contradictions in our society's views on alcohol. It's okay to acknowledge those facts. Talk with your teen about the many risks of alcohol use. During your conversation, you can both validate their views and uphold your family values. You are the first line of defense against alcohol abuse, so don't be afraid to talk to your teen. What you say has a big influence on their decision to drink or not. This Kids Count Minute is a message from Indiana Youth Institute. For more parent tips, visit IYI.org.
Kids count on you.
The Phone Ready quiz from the American Academy of Pediatrics will help you decide if you and your child are ready for their first phone. Go to healthychildren.org/phone ready quiz.
Overcoming drug addiction is difficult. The road to recovery is different for everyone. Find the path to recovery that works for you. Learn more at cdc.gov/stopoverdose.
It's the Tony Kinnett Cast on 93 WIPC.
So, if there is one other thing that is just weighing the Kamala Harris, Tim Walz campaign down, it's that Tim Walz just cannot stop lying about things that do not matter. I'm not talking about lying about things that, you know, that like, oh, you just kind of fudged a little something here because it's really embarrassing not to be or something like that. Well, like, for example, when Kamala said, you know, well, I've been to the border. Well, she hadn't actually been to the southern border, but it was maybe in her best political interest to pretend that she'd been to the border. Now, lying is a very bad move, but that's a position in which, again, given that she had no excuse for not going to the border as the borders are, you know, maybe there's like a Machiavellian reason, perhaps, to lie in that case. Tim Walz has been caught 7 different times lying about things that are big enough to report on, but like do nothing for him. Like what he's lying about is just the stupidest thing possible. So there are 2 new examples here, which, you know, of course, since there are 2 more, that makes it a
answer there. The Daily Double.
So the Daily Double for Tim Walz is that, first of all, this is the one that matters the least. Tim Walz posted a picture on Twitter today, or his campaign did, that he had a wonderful day at the dog park. And I know that Scout enjoyed it, his pooch. Oh, his pooch Scout. And he took a picture, and it's with a dog that is kind of a creamy, tan, shaggy fur, patches of white all over. Great, you know, picture of a dog. And then he deleted it like 8.6 seconds after he posted the photo. And everyone thought, that's a little bit strange. Why was it strange? Well, because a couple of years ago, Tim Walz sent out a special birthday shout out to his favorite pup, Scout. And it's like a black lab. Now, I don't know if you guys know this, but like dogs don't normally change, fur color and breed during their lifespan. So people were making fun of him for it. And because, you know, it's probably some intern that had no idea what they were doing, but they want to make Tim Walz seem like the pup-loving guy since This vice presidential candidate and current Ohio Senator J.D. Vance has been bringing his dog around. I don't know what the reason for bringing dogs everywhere with you on campaigns is, or bringing your dog with you to Home Depot, but we'll save that for an unnecessary hot take segment on another day. But that brings us to the second lie. So on Tim Walz's resume, he had this listed for ages that he had received an award as like Person of the Year from the Nebraska Chamber of Commerce. Now, I don't know what chambers of commerce out there are like giving out awards. I have an award where I was the Science Teacher of the Year from a Wisconsin Ecology Foundation. I didn't go around like telling everybody all the time, well, I have an award from it. Because like there are some awards that are really nice to get, but I mean, no one's ever heard of that ecological society, and no one's ever asking like, hey, well, you may be an interesting guy, but do you have a Person of the Year award from the Nebraska Chamber of Commerce? Minnesota Governor Tim Walz? Well, apparently he lied about that. So according to Barry L. Kennedy, the then president of the Nebraska Chamber of Commerce, quote, we researched this matter and can confirm that you, meaning Tim Walz, have not been the recipient of any award from the Nebraska Chamber of Commerce. Wah, wah, wah. So, if you're counting at home, because you see the chyron on the screen says Snow Walls and the 7 Does, then that is 2. What are the other 5? Well, of course, he lied about his rank as retiring as a command sergeant major. He didn't meet the qualifications that he agreed to conditionally to be promoted to command sergeant major. So they bumped him back down to master sergeant, even though he's been claiming for all these years that he was a command sergeant major. Again, master sergeant's perfectly fine rank. It's kind of difficult to get up to an E8 in the Army. No reason to lie about it, but he really had to for some reason. Number 2, he claimed that he was carrying a weapon of war in like war zones for a number of years. I'm sorry, Italy is not a war zone. He claimed he was a part of Operation Enduring Freedom, which happened in the Middle East. And now he's trying to claim that, well, you know, the European bases, we really supported the vets in Afghanistan. No one's out there going, man, I'd really love to strike this grid square in Iraq, but we better call the guys up in Italy. No, I don't think so. And then also, by the way, he allowed C-SPAN and other news outlets and like campaign events for years to call him an Afghanistan veteran without ever correcting them, which is just, you know, it's not a direct lie, but it's very scummy. Number 3, he says that he didn't actually leave the service and abandon his battalion before he found out they would be deployed. That's now a lie. We found out that he knew like 2 months in advance before he filed to run for Congress and abandoned his unit goodbye. Also, you know, most of the battalion and other command sergeants major from the Minnesota National Guard have also stated such. Number 4, he lied about his wife using in vitro fertilization to conceive. Just super weird. There are a lot of people with fertility issues. IVF is something a lot of people have used to get pregnant. You may support vehemently IVF, even though there's like 5 people in the whole country that aren't Catholic that don't support IVF. And even then, there's like a lot of, you know, how is the IVF being performed and in what cases, etc. But he's trying to say that, well, his wife had IVF, so it's like a personal story. So it's like very, you can like tear up on it. She didn't even use IVF. She used a different fertility method to have kids, which is fine. There's nothing wrong, like using alternative methods to get pregnant. Why are we lying about this? Just say like, hey, look, my wife also used alternative methods for fertility. Or methods like IVF. You can say that. No one's going to think any less. You don't have to embellish every single thing. And then finally, and this is just the height of embellishing for no reason, he goes around talking about how he was this head coach and he was only ever an assistant coach and a coordinator, which again is fine. Be a coach. You can be a former coach, but you don't have to say, well, I was the head coach. No, you weren't. Why are you lying about this stuff? Who cares if you were a command sergeant major instead of a master sergeant? Who cares if that's your dog or a dog you saw at the dog park? Who cares if you got an award from the Nebraska Chamber of Commerce? There's like 18 people that have ever been to the office of the Nebraska Chamber of Commerce. Carried a weapon of war in Italy, using IV. There's no reason. I've said this before. Don't make stupid decisions on campaigns. But like this guy doing this is erasing any kind of smudge the Republicans had for not looking into George Santos. Kamala Harris had Josh Shapiro on a silver platter as a running mate that would have destroyed Trump in marginal polling in Pennsylvania, which would have made the state a toss-up. And instead, Kamala Harris went and picked the Democrat George Santos as her running mate. who now is seen as a liar. So this is the best part about her administration chances. So you've got Kamala, who's an extremely far to the left, open, like Marxist in her economic policy proposals, when she's not hiding from the media, like the media's walking around like Terminator. She's like hiding under the desk. Or laughing awkwardly before running up into planes. And then you've got Tim Walz, who is somehow more of a liar than Hillary Clinton, which is an impressive feat. So that finally brings us down to some of the media response to the endorsements by some 90s Labor Democrat individuals, which is what they're trying to pass off Tim Walz as. He's not. And that brings us to Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s family. It's time for some family matters. So we'll be coming back to that next here on the Tony Kinnett Cast on the Daily Signal, nationally syndicated, and first on 93 WIBC.
Tony Katz.
We assume that you have one of those kind of soaking tubs.
Oh, you're talking about like up at the Cocoa Motel. The Kokomo there.
The Cocoa Motel?
Yeah,
please tell me there's a real place called the Cocoa Motel.
There is, yeah. I don't know if it's still there or not, but it used to be.
How was I not notified?
How have you not stayed there?
The Cocoa Motel?
Yeah.
Do you ever wonder how we're still on the air?
No.
Tony Katz, mornings 6 to 9 on 93 WIBC and WIBC.com.
Uh-oh, Brad's buzzed.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, he's starting with the woots. Good thing is, he knows when he's buzzed.
Know your buzzed warning signs? Call for a ride when it's time to go home. Buzz driving is drunk driving. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
When you have a stuffy nose, life can be a bit unpleasant. Some live every day with a stuffy nose, and that can make life downright miserable. I'm Dr. Madan Kandula with Advent, where we are committed to eliminating your nasal breathing problems with simple in-office procedures like balloon sinuplasty, which requires no surgical cuts, little to no downtime, and can have you breathing better in less than 30 minutes. At Advent, we understand your inability to breathe freely limits your quality of life. And that's why we continue to pioneer the most advanced in-office procedures that have made our practice a global destination for those seeking to live their highest quality of life. Visit AdventKnows.com to see if you're a candidate for the balloon sinuplasty procedure. Because Advent knows when you breathe well, you live better.
Breathe well with simple solutions. Breathe well with simple solutions. AdventKnows.com.
Results may vary.
Do gurgling pipes, running toilets keep you up at night? Become a member at Hope Plumbing and have the comfort of knowing you have a plumber on call. For only $8 a month, you get your own plumber on call, a 10% discount on all plumbing services, one free mainline cleaning, one plumbing safety inspection, all trip charges waived, and so much more. Being their friend has its benefits. Give Hope Plumbing a call, hopeplumbing.com.
David was in big trouble with the IRS. At first, I didn't owe that much, but after this year, it was out of control. Then David called Get a Tax Lawyer. Right away, they were like, oh yeah, looks like you're qualified to save. Get a Tax Lawyer went to work. Should have called way sooner. Get a Tax Lawyer has helped thousands like David fight the IRS and get a fresh start.
Call 800-745-3070. That's 800-745-3070.
Can you hear me?
So can your customers. Get your message heard. Text business to 71007 now. Get results with Radio 1.
Children are placed in foster care through no fault of their own. Because of abuse or neglect, it's heartbreaking.
We were just left in a hotel.
Tay and his brothers were adopted with help from the Dave Thomas Foundation for Adoption. But more than 100,000 children in the U.S. are still waiting for a family.
Now that I'm adopted, I can focus on being a kid.
Learn how you can help at davethomasfoundation.org.
To protect his family from disaster, Steve used his camera phone.
Done.
By taking pictures of his important documents, Steve can always have them stored online. Learn more simple disaster prep tips at ready.gov. A message from FEMA and the Ad Council.
Pierce Jewelers, Carmel's family-owned jewelry store, is dedicated to quality and fine craftsmanship. Let them help you celebrate that special moment in your life. Shop local, shop smart, shop Pierce Jewelers.
If you can plan barbecues and weddings, you can plan to protect yourself from a natural disaster. Sign up for local alerts, prepare an emergency kit, and make a family communications plan. Get started at ready.gov/plan.
Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
It's the Tony Kinnett Cast on 93 WIPC.
It's a rare condition this day and age.
I tried to, get a little. The Family Matters is what the segment is called. So, the Family Matters theme song, turning into the credit. That if you're watching the live stream, you're missing out. I hate to tell you that there's so much of the video work that goes into this. We're absolutely thrilled with the team we have. Producer Allison, producer Lou, so many of the other great folks behind the scenes. Well, if you are a family member of the Robert F. Kennedy Jr. this evening, there's a lot of really gross stuff that's going on. So a couple of days ago, from Kathleen Kennedy Townsend, Courtney Kennedy, Carrie Kennedy, Chris Kennedy, and his sister Rory Kennedy, they put out a statement on Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s announcement. So they basically pointed out, they said that our brother Bobby's decision, you're quoting, our brother Bobby's decision to endorse Trump today is a betrayal of the values that our father and family hold most dear. It is a sad ending to a sad story, end quote. So, first of all, I never get tired of seeing how in a political situation, one person always gets a monopoly on like the vision of what their parent would say. You see this with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s family all the time. Like his daughter, who like doesn't actually embrace any of his values at all, disagrees with other family members of Dr. King on things that he said in his life. But like she's allowed to say, oh, well, you're betrayal on his values. Here's a hot take. RFK Jr. is good or bad, regardless of what JFK or his father, Bobby Kennedy Sr., actually said or did. You're not responsible for the sins or blessings of your parents. That's just a hot take here. So then Rory gets on MSNBC with former White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki, Miss Circleback, and just gets aggressively gross. Here's what that looked like.
Donald Trump is the polar opposite. He's a threat to most basic freedoms that are core to who we are as Americans, the right for women to control our bodies, the right to live in communities safe from gun violence, to love who you love. And I think if my dad were alive today, the real Robert Kennedy would have detested almost everything Donald Trump represents. His lying, his selfishness, his rage, his cynicism, hatred, racism, fascist sympathies, deliberate misinformation about vaccines, criminal felony convictions. Daddy was the Attorney General of the United States. His rape of E. Jean Carroll, his contempt for the poor and suffering, for ethics, democracy.
So she goes on this for a while, and she basically just like looking up the thesaurus, and like in one hand the thesaurus of how many bad things she can think of, and in the other hand, actually trying to read texts from, individuals over on the left side of the aisle feeding her lines here. And it's just awkward and embarrassing. And then she just openly disavows her brother for having alternative political beliefs. Just like voting for the other party. This is one of the most gross things I've seen a family member say on the air.
So I'm outraged and disgusted by my brother's gaudy and obscene embrace of Donald Trump.
Obscene.
And I completely disavow and separate and dissociate myself from Robert Kennedy Jr. in this flagrant and inexplicable.
All right, that's enough of that. I'm sorry, if you actually throw family members out because they have alternative like political beliefs from you, and not that they're like yelling at you about them, but they just vote for someone different. I have members of my family that vote for different individuals. And when we get together at Thanksgiving, things are fine. I'm sorry, I don't know what's wrong with some of you people out there who are like, oh no, he's a Republican. Oh no, he's supporting a Republican. Don't listen to why he might be supporting Trump. Isn't listening to things that he's concerned about. Maybe saying, look, I don't agree with him, but we love him. We just we're still going to be voting the other way. That's all you got to say. That's something called class, grace, poise. which is what Kennedy has had in response to his family members acting like idiots. I disavow him. Oh, the name of Kennedy has been besmirched. Oh, I'm so sorry. I don't care if you're Kennedy. I don't care if you're Bush or Clinton or any. Your last name does not matter to me at all. It doesn't. I do not care. No one should care. Whether you're an Obama or whether you're a Trump, I don't care. Do you do good things or do you do bad things? Do you say smart things? Do you say stupid things? If you have to disavow someone because, oh, Donald Trump is super mega Hitler Satan, oh. Well, great. Well, since we started out talking about the 90s labor Democrats, it's good that the other voting wing on the left, the suburban women with a college degree and a lot of bitterness and, no church, family, faith, community to invest in, exhibit A by casting any family members out who would dare vote red instead of blue, the horror. Always good to end just a little bit different than where we begin. So we'll be back tomorrow with some really great stuff or some mediocre stuff. You have to come find out. This has been the Tony Kinnett Cast on the Daily Signal, nationally syndicated, first on 93 WIBC.